नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुषापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च। श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिकाकांत राधाकांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वंश कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय श्रीमते विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषणवादी पाश्चात्य वाचालं भंगं वंदे कृपातमहं वंदे श्री गुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवं श्री चैतन्येश्वरं। हरि ओम। हरे कृष्ण। So we are continuing our discussion on the Srimad Bhagavat. We are continuing in the 9th canto the discussion of the beautiful pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, Maryada Purushottam Ramachandra. We discussed in the last class chapter 10, and in today's class we will be discussing chapter 11. In chapter 10, Shukadev Goswami describes to Parikshit Maharaj in summary the various beautiful pastimes of Ramchandra. He summarizes practically the whole Ramayana from the appearance all the way to Lord Ramchandra returning back to Ayodhya within one chapter. Condensed Ramayana. And of course, he says that you have heard Ramayana has been going on, being discussed since time immemorial. So let me summarize just so that we can recollect and relish these beautiful pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. So in chapter 11 is a chapter which summarizes, not a very long chapter, 30 plus verses, how Lord Ramchandra, after he came back to Ayodhya, he got coronated. We discussed the coronation part also in the last class. He got installed as the king. Bharat, who had been forced to be the king by the benediction that Kaikeyi had got from Dashrath Maharaj. Lord Ram be banished and Dashrath be made the king. Bharat only performed the governance duties but never actually took the position of the king. He never enjoyed the facilities of the king. He followed an austere life pretty much like Lord Ramchandra was. In fact, more. Lord Ramchandra was at least getting to eat some fruits and some roots in the forest. But what was Bharat Maharaj's standard when he was staying in Nandigram? For 14 years, he would only eat barley cooked in cow urine. Barley cooked in cow urine. Can you imagine? Wow. And not only, and not as a, once a fortnight fast, but barley cooked in cow urine every day. Only that for 14 years. Sleeping on the floor, wearing on kusha grass. This is very difficult. Usually, when a person gets very elevated positions of great responsibility, oftentimes lot of comfort and perks come along with it. And you see this in ancient times for big positions, kings, leaders, and you also see it in today in the corporate world, in the political world. The more responsibility a person takes, more facilities are given to them to have a very comfortable life. The idea being not just give them commensurate remuneration, but to make sure that they are so comfortable in all other ways so that they have little or no distraction from any other considerations other than the very, very important responsibilities that they have to execute for the welfare of those whom they are leading. Whether it's an organization, whether it is a country, correct? And senior positions, you get a car, you get a house, all your bills are paid, everything, allowances. Driver will take you to office, you do your work, big cabin, everything nice, all facilities. Why? So that you can work undistracted. But look at the character, and that's, I mean, that's not a, no complaint against that particular arrangement. I'm just explaining. But look at Bharat Maharaj. He perfectly executed. He perfectly executed the duties of a king, but didn't accept any perks. Didn't stay in a palace, didn't wear opulent clothes, huh? Did not do PR campaigns, promotions, installed Lord Ramchandra's Paduka as the real king and executed the duties of a king without any facilities or perks in a perfect manner, just waiting for Ramachandra to return. This is extraordinary service. Extraordinary service is when one is not even interested in the benefits that come from the position, but one is simply interested in rendering service. Extraordinary. This is not at all easy. Not at all easy. So that very, very high standard, Bharat Maharaj. And finally, when Ramchandra is back, he hands the Paduka back to him. And a very, very beautiful ceremony. Lord Ramachandra is finally installed as the king of Ayodhya. Jai Shri Raja Ramachandra ki. So this chapter describes the pastimes of Ramachandra from his Rajyabhisheka, which was abruptly interrupted on the previous night, 14 years ago. Finally gets concluded after 14 years. Sadly, Dasharath Maharaj is not there to see these beautiful pastimes. But so many wonderful things have happened in the last 14 years. We are still recounting them after thousands and thousands of years. We are still discussing the wonderful characteristics and the pastimes. Now comes the Rama Rajya part. Even today in Indian politics, people say we want Rama Rajya. So what is this Rama Rajya? When a perfect ruler who's personally perfect, like Ramchandra, who's Maryada Purushottam, rules his kingdom with perfect justice, always considering the benefits of the citizens as paramount, welfare of the citizens, both materially and spiritually, not simply just giving freebies, not that kind of being nice. What needs to be a very thoughtful person. One should understand what it is that will lead to the true welfare of his citizens, and that requires a mature understanding not just of politics and uh, sociology, but deeply of spiritual and religious principles. Ramchandra is, of course, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is perfectly aware, not just is he aware of religious principles, he is the founder of spiritual principles, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. In fact, the Shastra says that every king, today's time we may not have kings, but the rulers of states, whoever is occupying that position of supreme leadership of a particular dominion, a particular country, state, city, whatever the dominion be, he is to be considered as a representative of the Lord. And he has to act like one, of course, not simply consider. He has to act like one. So he takes the position, like Bharat Maharaj took the position of a servant leader on behalf of the Lord, who rules the kingdom according to principles of dharma. So just like in our culture, parents are considered representatives of God. We are supposed to treat our mother, father as representatives of God because He has given us this body. Similarly, the king is to be treated as a representative of the Lord. Rama Rajya. So any ideal king aspires, or any king should aspire to follow that supreme example which Ramachandra has set. So this chapter briefly describes that Rama Rajya. So there are two things which Lord Ramachandra did. It is said, Shukadeva Goswami explains, when the Supreme Lord Ramachandra Bhagavan accepted the position of being a king, he did two things. For prosperity of humanity, the following of dharma is very, very important. Now people think, oh, following of dharma means I have to do religious rituals. Following of religious rituals is a part of what dharma expects you to do according to your situation within the social order. But the following of dharma is a much broader concept than that. The following of dharma, in its broadest and most simple sense, refers to everyone being properly engaged in their respective duties according to their qualification and nature, in a way that is progressive for themselves, for society, and community at large. When one engages in one's own dharma perfectly, one is 100% situated on the path of progress, both materially and spiritually. Sometimes it may seem that by taking the path of sin, adharma, One gets material success very quickly. Sometimes, not always. It's possible. But then there is a huge payback when one transgresses the system of dharma. So, one of the principal duties of the king is to not only instruct and guide the people in terms of both perfect execution of their own duties and also the perfect execution of religious duties in terms of function, in terms of yajnas, in terms of pujas, in terms of dan, tapa, jnana, tapa, uh, dana, performance of austerities, performance of charity. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, my opinion is tapa, yajna, and dana are extremely purifying. They are so purifying. Austerity, sacrifice, and charity. They're so purifying that they purify even the great souls. One should not give up these activities, even if one becomes very, very advanced spiritually. This is Krishna's words in the Bhagavad Gita. Tapa yajna jnana na tyajet. Don't give up. Even if one has become a perfected soul, one will say, oh, what? I don't have any duty now. No. But these activities purify even the pure. Lord Ramachandra taught the people not simply by opening classes, but by being a perfect example of execution of his own duties as a king, and how he executed his duties. We will come to that in a short while. I'm giving a synopsis. And also execution of proper worship and rituals. Because worship and rituals also have an important place in the overall execution of dharma, especially in a Vedic view of life, the Vedic way of life. It is said Ramachandra regularly performed yajnas with very opulent paraphernalia to worship the Supreme Lord. And, the system that the Lord has set up in terms of the various vibhutis and the devatas. Can you imagine? The yajna, Krishna says, Bhuktaram yajna tapasam. I am the enjoyer of all yajnas are meant for my pleasure. The Vedic system is when the Supreme Lord and the Lord's representatives, the devatas, are satisfied according to the Vedic method, they will be happy to bless humanity in general, especially those of performance of the sacrifices, by giving them all that they need in terms of natural resources, and provide everything in abundance so that they are materially happy and they can peacefully execute their material and spiritual duties. So Ramachandra is performing yajna. The Supreme Lord is performing yajna to please the Supreme Lord. Why is doing? To set an example. Does the Supreme Lord need to do yajna? No. Does the Supreme Lord need to perfectly execute his prescribed duties? No. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am not bound by any duty. He says, what to speak of me, even the liberated soul, who is a mukta, a jivan mukta, has no duties to perform. But even then, Krishna says in the 3rd chapter and the 5th chapter, he emphasizes this point. Even a perfected soul, even though he has no duty, he should continue to execute his prescribed duties to set the right example for society. Because yadyat acharati shrishtas tattadevetaro jana sayat pramanam kurte janas tad anuvartate. Whatever a great person performs, it becomes an example for others to follow. So better he executes his prescribed duty, even though he doesn't need to, just to set an example. He should do it in a detached way. So even if a liberated soul is not needed, definitely Krishna doesn't need to perform. He's not obligated to perform. And Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita. Name kartavya trishu lokeshu. Something to that effect. I don't remember the exact words. I don't have any duties to perform in these three worlds. But still I am always engaged. So, Lord Hari in the form of Ramachandra is worshipping Lord Hari and performing yajna to set the example. Because the Vedic principle, as is explained in the third chapter, is the process of yajna is paraspara bhavayanta. This is an important principle in spiritual life. Paraspara bhavayanta. Paraspara bhavayanta means if we satisfy the Lord and the agencies of the Lord, then the agencies of the Lord will correspondingly bless us. You know what is the expectation nowadays of mankind? Mankind just wants to go to temple and give a wish list to the Lord or to the Devatas. This is what I want. Please, please. And they think just by giving one small coconut, 4 flowers, one laddu, whatever, 2 agarbattis. Please give me this, big things we want to ask. We are going and offering worship just to express our gratitude. We cannot expect to purchase the Lord or impress the Devatas and get big blessings just by giving some cheap, some insignificant offerings. What is the process of the scripture? Yajna. And when we say yajna, I'm not just talking about yajna as a ritual. That, yes, that also. Krishna defines yajna in a very broad way in the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, the yajna, the ritual is there, and according to one's varnashram status, one should perform the prescribed pujas and vidhis according to one's situation and capacity. Of course, Kali Yuga is so difficult to perform all these things that the Shastras recommend. Yajnai sankirtanai prayai yajanti hi sumedasai. Kali Yuga is so difficult. You just chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare. But if in our traditions, in our families, certain pujas, rituals are happening, we can continue. There is no objection to that. But the principle is important. The principle is when we please the Lord blesses us. So Lord Ramachandra set that perfect example. Perfect example of worship, perfect example of performance of yajna, perfect example of being a personal example of perfect execution of duties. That is very inspiring. Knowing dharma and reading about dharma in a book may be nice and intellectually stimulating, but unless you see a living example of what you have read in a book, do we feel inspired to follow? Do we feel inspired to follow? Don't, right? In fact, what to speak of inspired, we really doubt whether actually it is even possible or this is just some fairy tale in a book. These are, impossible standards. We don't realize that it is possible to live a life like this until we see examples. The Lord displays such examples when He comes, and the Lord's pure devotees also. That is why for us, as sadhakas, when we look at our own respective spiritual masters and the parampara and the great sadhus, we see in them the embodiment of the qualities that the Shastra speaks about. That gives us hope, that gives us encouragement, isn't it? That's why we want to see great souls. We want to hear from great souls. We want to learn from great souls. So we read so many things. Who is like that? I know everybody's crook. Nobody's like this. Then you suddenly come across an individual. He's living like this and he's happy. Because many times people think a person who will follow dharma properly will be very frustrated. Because he'll lose out in life. He'll be a loser in life. So dharma works in very unique ways. Anyway, we don't have time to go into. But I think the principle we have established. So Ramachandra, he was performing. That was Treta Yuga. In Treta Yuga, the main process of pleasing the Supreme Lord was what? Anyone knows?
Yajna Prabhuji, Yajna and offering to Lord.
Yes, correct. कृते यध्यायतो विष्णुं त्रेतायाम यजतो मखई द्वापरे परिचर्यायाम कलौ तद हरि कीर्तन. In Satya Yuga, the main process of spiritual advancement was meditation. Everyone was so pure, everyone could meditate nicely. Treta Yuga, dharma came to 75%. Very few people could meditate properly. But yajnas, yes, we can do. Nice utterance of mantra, nice paraphernalia, big elaborate yajnas, please the devatas and the supreme. The devatas would come, the Supreme Lord would come when the yajnas would be completed. Nowadays, nobody comes, only smoke comes. Not because of any other reason, but we are not able, we are not competent to perform. We will neither get pure ingredients, nor will we get a pure Brahman, nor will we get the persons who can do the rituals properly. Very difficult in Kali Yuga. I'm not saying it is zero, but it is very hard. So, Tretayam Yajato Makhin. Treta Yuga, it was possible. Ramchandra is setting that example. Yajato Makhai, through elaborate yajnas, he was worshipping the Dwapare Paricharyayam. In Dwapar Yuga, even yajna became difficult. Even in Dwapar, there were exceptions. There were Ashwamedha, Rajasuya yajnas in Dwapar also, but the numbers reduced drastically. The main process for people in general was worshipping the Shri Murti, Shri Vigraha of Bhagwan in temples. So everyone focused on temple worship. In Kali Yuga, that is also difficult. So what do we do in Kali Yuga? The same benefit can be achieved by Kalau Tad Hari Kirtanat, simply by chanting the holy names of Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One can get the same benefit that was available in Satya Yuga by meditation, in Treta by Yajna, in Dwapar by temple worship. The same benefit is available simply by doing Kirtan. But even doing Kirtan individually and sustain it over a long time is so difficult. What is Shakti in Kali Yuga? Sanghe Shakti. Hello. In Kali Yuga, to keep doing something consistently, you need to come together with like-minded people. Right? When we associate with devotees, when we discuss Bhagavatam together, like what we are doing now, then we feel enthused and inspired. Yes. Otherwise, in Kali Yuga, where the whole current of material nature is going in the opposite direction, very difficult. So, Sankirtana, that's what the Bhagavatam says. Those in the age of Kali who are intelligent, they worship the Supreme Lord through Sankirtana Yajna. Yajnai Sankirtanai Prayai Yajanti hi Sumedasa. Sumedasa means those are really intelligent. Some people think, oh, all this Sankirtan is for sentimental, less educated people. No, Bhagavad doesn't say that. Bhagavad says, Kali Yuga, those who are really intelligent, who know what works. We are not interested in a fancy display. We are interested to know what works in Kali Yuga. What works? Yajnai Sankirtanai Prayai Yajanti. Anyway, so Lord Ramchandra, this principle is important. That's why I spent some time discussing this. He was worshipping the Lord, to set an example. Very elaborate yajnas. It is said there are 4 kinds of priests who perform yajnas. There is the Hota, there is the Brahma, there is the Advaryu, and there is the Udgata. They have different roles. I'll not go into that. Basically, these 4 types of priests who are required in a Vedic yajna are experts in various aspects of the yajna. And they are also in charge of, some are in charge of rituals, some are in charge of the singing of the hymns. One is overseeing. There are different roles. All of these. Udgata is singing hymns from the Samaveda. So each of these have different roles in the yajna. It is said after the yajnas was over, just see Ramchandra's mentality, Lord Ramchandra. Ramchandra was so happy that the Brahmanas in those days were so pure. They had no material desire. They did not have a contract, Well, first tell me Dakshina, then I will tell you whether I will come or not. That's not a Brahman. A Brahman in Vedic times accepts poverty voluntarily. Voluntarily. And I'll just explain to you what happened in this particular pastime. It is said after the yajna, Ramchandra was so happy with the Brahmanas because these Brahmanas were without any material desire. Actually, the term Brahmana, what is the meaning of the word Brahmana? Brahma Janati iti Brahman. He who knows the supreme truth is actually a Brahman. So those who know the supreme truth are definitely not attracted to material things. They just take the necessary just to make sure their basic bodily needs are taken care of, and whatever they need to do in the execution of their service for their ashram and for the welfare of those who are dependent on them is taken care of nicely. They have enough grains and milk products to perform their yajnas and pujas and rituals, and they are happy. That's about it. Ramchandra was so happy. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya. Lord, the Supreme Lord is always happy with Brahmanas because they are always selfless. It is said after the yajna, Lord Ramchandra donated land to the 4 categories of priests. To one category of priests, he donated the eastern side of the land. To one category, he donated the west. Some part to one category, he gave the north, and to the Brahma, the Acharya, he gave the south. So it is said, what remained with Ramchandra after giving south, north, east, and west? Nothing. Nothing. Can you imagine after performing the whole yajna, he gave everything, his whole kingdom. North side you take, south side he gave everything in donation to the Brahmanas. And the Bhagavatam says, the only thing that remained with Ramachandra after performing this yajna was the clothes he was wearing. And for Sita Devi, other than her clothes, the nose ring that she had. That's what the Bhagavatam says. But they were very happy. Ramchandra and Sita Devi were very happy. Huh? But just see the quality of the Brahmanas. If Kali Yuga Brahmanas received something like that, they will take and run away. These Brahmanas who were engaged in the sacrifice, they are very happy to see this nature of the Lord. See, the Lord is always trying to please his devotees, and the devotees are always trying to please the Lord. Lord was extremely affectionate to the Brahmanas. Their hearts were so melted on seeing this disposition of Ramachandra, this example that he was setting of a truly detached leader. Because he felt, if I give land to the Brahmanas are so selfless that they will only work for the welfare of others. That was the thought process. Very important that leader has to be selfless. This is very, very important. So the Brahmanas told Lord Ramchandra, they were so pure-hearted, they told Ramchandra, oh Lord of the universe. They knew Ramchandra is Bhagavan. What have you not given us? Huh? You have given us the greatest gift. You have entered our hearts. And you are seated in our hearts. And seated in our hearts with your effulgence, you have dissipated the ignorance of material nature. This is the supreme gift. What more we can ask for? Our hearts are already purified with transcendental knowledge. We are not interested. We don't need material donation. You are so kind, even after being the Supreme Lord, you place the Brahmanas, pure-hearted spiritually realized Brahmanas as your worshipable deities. You are so perfect in your knowledge and memory. You are the most famous. You are the purifier of all living entities. You are beyond the laws of material nature. We offer our respectful obeisances to you. So please, thank you so much, but we don't need this. Please take it back. So Ramchandra donated everything, and the Brahmanas were happy to see the sentiment of Ramchandra and gave everything back to Ramchandra. So amazing, such an amazing interaction. Please don't try any of this with your own properties, and if you do so, do it at your own risk. So this is the character. And this particular episode is not the only episode. Across the Bhagavatam, there are many instances where this kind of behavior or this kind of exchange between a great king and great sadhus has happened. So this is not an isolated incident. Anyway, so this was explained in the beginning of this chapter. Then Shukadeva Goswami continues to say, then he narrates what Ramchandra did as a king. Later, towards the end of the chapter, he describes the opulence of Ayodhya and the beauty of Ayodhya and all that. We'll come to that in a while. But then he narrates a very important pastime which happened in Ramarajya, which is a very, very significant effect which changed the course of the Leela. It is said Lord Ramchandra was such a wonderful king that he would incognito means dressed up like an ordinary man, he would hide and disguise himself and he would go into Ayodhya. Why? Because he wanted to go and see for himself what is going on in his kingdom. If you just do a public interview, people are very, nobody wants to tell the truth, right? Everyone is scared. Everyone is scared. So he was hiding and disguising himself. He was moving around the town to see, are people actually happy? Is there actually a problem? What are the issues of the people? So the Bhagavatam describes at one point when he was moving around disguised, he saw a man. It's not mentioned here, but that was the dhobi. He was a washerman. He was speaking unfavorably about Mother Sita. Lord Ramchandra heard it. This man, this dhobi, was chastising his wife. Apparently, there was an episode where his wife had been at the house of another man for some purpose. It's not described in detail. But when she comes back to her husband, the washerman's house, he chastises her that you went to another man's house and now you are coming back, you are unchaste, you are unpolluted, I will not accept you back. A henpecked husband like Ramchandra may accept his wife who has stayed in another man's house. But I am not a henpecked man like him. I will not accept you again. Can you imagine? Shukdev Goswami, after saying this, he immediately makes a comment. Men with a poor fund of knowledge and very low character speak like this about the Supreme Lord. And they speak such nonsense. Correct? This was, everyone knows the pastime, everyone knows the circumstances. And Sita Devi had gone through Agni Pariksha. Lord Ramchandra already knew these kind of questions will come. It was natural at that point for those. Ravana had a terrible reputation as a rapist. He would abduct beautiful women and force himself on them. Ramchandra knew that, and that's why he had ensured that the Agni Pariksha was done. Of course, we discussed in the last class there were two purposes of Agni Pariksha. One is this external purpose, the internal was for the Maya Sita to be exchanged back with the original Sita who was staying in Kailash with Parvati Devi. They were having a good time. while all these leelas were going on. So Sita Devi's purity was established, but nonetheless, the point here is, doesn't matter if you are as great and wonderful and perfect as Ramachandra, or you are as perfect and chaste and devoted as Sita Devi, there will always still be people who will misjudge you, criticize you, and find faults. So if this can happen to Ramachandra, we should not be too surprised that, sometimes we become a bit upset that, oh, Prabhu, I'm doing so many right things, I'm doing this, I'm struggling like that, but I'm still doing this. But still, why this person is saying like that, why that person is saying like that? So we have to remember Ramachandra's example. This is the nature of the material world. This is the nature of envy. Envy is the characteristic of the material world. Fault is the characteristic of the material world. So nobody is spared in the material world. Neither Lord Ram, nor Sita, nor Krishna, nor Radharani. Nobody is spared. What to speak of other saintly people, and what to speak of us who are just ordinary sadhaks or ordinary human beings. Ramachandra, of course, he knows the situation perfectly, but in his pastime of being an ideal king and thinking that he has to set the right example as the ideal king, the Bhagavatam says, Ramachandra abandoned his wife Sita Devi, even though at that time she was pregnant. So Lord Ramchandra had Lakshman take Sita Devi and keep her, not abandon in the sense that he just went and dumped her on the street or dumped her in the forest, but he had her taken to the ashram of Valmiki. It is said, and this is one of the most difficult to understand pastimes of Ramachandra, the extent to which he went to please the subjects. Of course, there are other spiritual reasons why he did what he did. We'll not go into that. But at an external level, he was setting the example of, a perfect example of one who does whatever is necessary. Because yad yad acharati shreshta. If he doesn't set the highest example of behavior, what will others follow? The washerman is thinking, oh, my queen is a corrupted lady and my king is okay with it. Even though that was not the truth. But Lord Ramchandra felt he must act. Anyway, it is said Sita Devi in that way was in the ashram of Valmiki Muni. In due course, twins were born to Sita Devi in the ashram of Valmiki, and later they became famous as Lava and Kusha. Their birth ceremonies, purificatory ceremonies were all performed by Valmiki Muni. And that is how that whole Uttar Ramayana episode then starts, Lava and Kusha. Maharaj Parikshit at this point mentions, just like Ramachandra had two sons, Lava and Kush, Lakshman had two sons, Angad and Chitraketu. Of course, not Angad, the son of Sugriva. This is another Angad. This is the son of Lakshman. Bharat Maharaj had two sons, Taksha and Pushkala. Shatrughna had two sons, Subahu and Shrutasena. So it is said, Ramachandra sent his various brothers in different directions when he became the king to expand his empire. So in those days, there would be a Chhatrapati ruler, the emperor, and then he would have dominion over various other kingdoms. And these smaller kingdoms, smaller rajas, would pay some tribute and be under the Chhatrachaya and the overall emperorship of a very, very powerful big ruler. And they would live peacefully in that arrangement. A kind of a federal structure of some sort, like what is there in today's, states in a bigger country. Something like that. Not exactly running like, but something like that. So it is said Bharat Maharaj, the brother of Ramchandra, also went in various directions. It is said he fought with many Gandharvas also, and who are generally pretenders. Bhagavatam says, I don't know the background of this story, pretend why they were called. And then he brought the wealth that he captured after fighting with them and offered it to Ramachandra. Shatrughna was very famous. Shatrughna, his name itself means he who is the killer of enemies. Shatrughna was famous because he killed a very notorious demon by the name of Lavanasur. Lavan. Lavan actually literally also means salt, but I don't know whether the demon had any relationship with salt, but he was known as Lavanasur. Now, very interesting thing, this Lavanasur was the son of the very famous demon Madhu. This famous demon Madhu was controlling the area known as Madhuban. Madhuban. Braj area, Madhuban. This is Ramchandra's time, past time. Thousands and thousands and thousands of years before Krishna Lila. Madhuban, same place. It is said Shatrughna killed Lavanasur in a fight. And in the great forest of Madhuban, Shatrughna personally established a town by the name Mathura. The town of Mathura, where Krishna Chandra performed his appearance pastimes, was established by Shatrughna in Ramayana time. So you see, Ramayana and Krishna Lila is also coming together. Because he killed Lavanasur. At that time, actually, Shatrughna would stay in Mathura. He had made Mathura like his capital. Because many of these brothers would make their own cities in certain parts of the overall kingdom so that they could administer the kingdom. So they would also be so. Shatrughna would spend considerable time in Mathura. Then the very painful pastime of disappearance of Sita Devi is mentioned. It is said Sita Devi was so pained in separation from Ramachandra. We cannot even fathom. Actually, sending Sita to the forest, we cannot fathom, not just for Sita Devi, for Ramachandra also, how painful it would have been. We cannot imagine. But just to give us an idea, it is said when Sita Devi was kidnapped, the way the Ramayana describes how Lord Ramchandra felt the separation, it is very, very painful even to read. And now he had to do it voluntarily. So we are mentioning this point just to emphasize to what extent the Lord is willing to go for the welfare of living entities. For their welfare, even though he was at no fault and neither was Sita Devi at any fault. He is willing to undergo so much inconvenience for the welfare of others. So meditating on the lotus feet of Ramachandra, Sita Devi disappeared into the earth. It is said the earth parted. She requested Bhumi Devi, please, enough. Both ho gayi Leela, abhi I cannot take it anymore. Too much separation. I came up from the earth. Sita, she was born because the plow. Those who know the pastime, Sita Devi was not born in the normal way. Neither was Ramachandra. Ramachandra came from the Payasam, not directly from the Payasam. She was born to Kaushalya, but as a result of the Payasam. And Sita Devi was not born from the womb. She was found in the earth when the earth was being plowed by Janak. So she's the daughter of the earth. So she prays back to Bhumi Devi, please take me. Actually, Bhumi Devi is an expansion of the Lord's energy. She's in the Lakshmi category. She's one of the consorts of the Lord. So Lakshmi, Sita, they are all the same tattva, ultimately, Radharani. They are the same tattva of the spiritual energy of the Lord. So Sita in her manifest pastimes appears as the daughter of Bhumi. And she goes back to Bhumi. And Ramachandra Bhagavan hears the news of Sita Devi's disappearance. He was already so aggrieved. He could not contain his grief out of his transcendental love. Now, his grief should not be understood in the same way that we have our material grief. When boyfriend, girlfriend have a breakup, there is a period of frustration before they move on to somebody else. This is an eternal relationship of love. In the material world, there is an attraction between man and woman, and everyone is affected. The Bhagavatam says, right up to prominent devatas like Brahma and Shiva are affected by the attraction between the male and female. And wherever there is this attraction between male and female, the element of fear, material fear is there. So everyone who's in household life, who is affected by this attachment, affected by this duality, are always in material anxiety and fear. But Ramachandra's misery was not the result of material attachment. It is his transcendental relationship. Just like there is enjoyment in the Lord being with his spiritual energy, there is also enjoyment in separation. Now, this is a spiritual principle which is very difficult for the material mind to understand and appreciate. Prabhu, what is this? Pleasure in separation? Is this the same kind of pleasure when I feel when my wife goes away for some days and I have some peace at home? No. We are not talking about that kind of relief from anxiety because of separation. We are talking about the spiritual experience of Vipralamba. What is Vipralamba? Just like there is experience of ecstasy in being together at a spiritual level between the Lord and the devotee, or the Lord and his energy. When the devotee and the Lord are away from each other, the feeling of separation from the Lord also results in such intense feeling of separation from the Lord. In the material world, it's a feeling of pain, but in the spiritual realm, that feeling of intense separation is actually a cause of ecstasy. And you may say, Prabhu, I don't understand. So the Bhagavatam says, Prabhu, you cannot understand unless you actually experience. Because if we are at the material platform, we cannot understand this principle. The way this principle can be understood by those who have not experienced the ecstasy of separation. For those who have experienced even to a little bit, they can fully understand and appreciate this principle. For those who haven't, the way we can intellectually understand is that when we are intensely remembering the Lord in separation, because the Lord and the thinking of the Lord is not different, one experiences the presence of the Lord very acutely in one's heart, even when one is separated from the Lord. Because actually there is never any separation from the Lord. Correct? Is there some place where the Lord doesn't exist? No. So is there actually a separation? No. We feel connected to the Lord because of being with Him, or we can even feel very connected to the Lord by feeling a sense of separation from Him. That intense remembrance itself is a feeling of deep connection. This is as far as we can explain with material logic. Beyond this, we have to experience. So we have to cry for the Lord. Those who cry for the Lord in separation, not crying like how a materialistic man who has lost his girlfriend or his wife is crying. Not that kind of crying. It's a feeling of intense remembrance, which is deeply felt in the heart as a deep union. In fact, the feeling of separation can be so intense that it can result in a feeling of connection which is even stronger than the Lord being uh, next to the person. Very interesting, isn't it? I suddenly remembered something, so I'll tell you. Sorry, I'm going a bit slow, but this is a very interesting point. I hope it's okay. In transcendental literature, the highest levels of the feelings of separation are known to be a state which is known as prema vaichitya. Prema vaichitya means a very high topic, which is, since we are on this specific point, the feeling of separation sometimes is so intense, sometimes even when the Lord is present, that feeling of separation comes very intensely. And this is a very beautiful pastime. We don't have time. If I had time, I would have spoken more in detail. But just to let you know, at one time, Radha and Krishna were together in Braj. Because they're always together in Braj. So this particular pastime, Krishna was sitting next to Radharani. And he was speaking something with respect to a bumblebee. Madhu. And he tells the Madhu has gone away. Madhusudana is gone. Radharani is sitting next to Krishna and she hears it when Krishna is telling her that the bee has gone away. She hears as Madhusudan has gone away. Suddenly in her mind, what thought comes? Krishna has left me and gone. Krishna is sitting next to her. Krishna is only telling her the bee has gone. Suddenly in her heart, even though Krishna is sitting next to her, that intense, because of her intense love, she becomes so overwhelmed by a feeling of separation from Krishna that she goes into such an ecstasy that she faints. Out of separation of Krishna, sitting next to Krishna. What to speak of all this? Prema Vaichitya. Anyway, we are discussing all this just to give an idea that we do not mistake Ramchandra, Sita Devi's separation and union to be on the material platform, Radha and Krishna's separation and union on the material platform, or even the devotees' separation from the Supreme Lord and their feeling of separation from the spiritual master and other things on the material platform. One is never separated. One is never separated from Guru and Krishna if one is keeping them in one's heart. So it is said after this Leela of Sita Devi's disappearance, Lord Ramchandra, he never remarried. Ekapatni Vrata. He continued to be a celibate. It is said he lived like a perfect brahmachari after Sita Devi's disappearance. And it is said for the next 13,000 years, without a break, he performed an Agnihotra Yajna after Sita Devi disappeared. After completing this Yajna for 13,000 years, it is said in Treta the lifespan was roughly 100,000 years. 13,000 years he performed. It is said after that Lord Ramachandra performed his disappearance pastime. That Supreme Lord whose lotus feet are pierced by the thorns in Dandakaranya, those lotus feet which are carried in the hearts of the devotees who are always thinking of him, he entered his own eternal abode in the spiritual world of Vaikuntha, Saketa Dham, by winding up his pastimes. So I'm going to stop here. I was hoping I'll complete the chapter, but I don't know. We discussed so many things. I've only completed 20 verses. So never mind. This is so wonderful to reflect on the Lord's pastimes and characters. We'll continue and complete the chapter in the next class. 15 more verses. Okay. Ramchandra's pastimes, we can discuss so much. There are a few other points. nice philosophical points in the rest of the chapter. So we will continue. So I'm opening up the floor. I don't want to take more time. It is already 10 p.m. for those who are in Malaysia. Opening up the floor, and if anybody has any questions. Yes, Tarun Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, one question I have on the son of Lakshman, Chitraketu. So he's the same Chitraketu Maharaj who was having his Leela as Vrittasur in the previous canto.
Sorry, which name you mentioned?
Chitraketu.
No. This is not that Chitraketu.
Okay.
Yes. So some of these names, there are other characters with similar names also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like that. There are so many Bharats. Bharat is Lord Ram's brother. There's Bharat, uh, who was the son of Rishabhdev,
Yes.
for whose name this country is Bharat. Became Jad Bharat and then went back to Godel. So these names are there. Ram, Parshuram was Ram. Ramchandra is Ram. Balaram was
Balram is
Ram.
Ram.
Not was, is Ram. Correct. Like that. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Prabhuji.
Yeah, Puja
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat.
Prabhuji, I mean, out of curiosity, I wanted to know what was the spiritual reason for abandoning Sita Devi, I mean, in the jungle. What was the reason actually?
There are many things. I don't recollect all in detail right now, but essentially it was also uh, for the purpose of experiencing Vipralamba. So the Lord is always, there is Sambhog and there is Vipralamba. So the Lord was there together and he went with Sita to the forest 14 years. So he was always with Sita, right? Yeah, even though they went to the forest, he was with Sita. So that Vipralamba experience, what we just discussed about Prema Vaichitya, that wasn't experienced in the Leela. See, in Radha Krishna Leela, the Lord went to Mathura after killing Kamsa. The Lord, and he was in his teens when he left Braj. Left in the sense at a manifest Leela level, he was not visible in Braj to the eyes. The Lord came back to Braj after when he was 100 years. So that was the period of Vipralamba, where the gopis were experiencing Krishna with feelings of intense separation. So in the Lord's Leela, you always see this union, separation, union, separation. So that's what we have heard. There may be more details. I don't recollect on top of my head, but this is one of the main reasons. Of course, at an external level, we already discussed why the Lord did that. But internally for the purpose of transcendental pleasure. And then, of course, the Lord wanted to manifest the Leela in a particular way. He wanted to, you can also say that he wanted to create a reason for Sita Devi to disappear. He wanted to, through love and kush, going to Valmiki's ashram. That's how Ramayana became available to the world. I hope you are aware, Valmiki Muni wrote Ramayana much before Ramachandra's pastimes manifested. He was not like, watching TV live telecast, and he was not writing like that. He was not sending reporters behind Ramchandra, tell me what is happening. And he saw everything in meditation. Even before Ramachandra appeared, he was blessed by Brahma to write Valmiki Ramayana. Valmiki was blessed to write Ramayana. He wrote everything. He had already written. He could see everything. And how Ramayana spread? The first students who took Ramayana outside Valmiki's ashram were Love and Kush, Lord Ramchandra's children. They learned the Ramayana. They were taught by Valmiki Muni and they were sent to Ayodhya. And in the streets of Ayodhya, they were singing the beautiful verses of Ramayana. And everyone was singing, who are these beautiful Muniputra who are singing? And Ramachandra personally called them in his kingdom and they were singing. So anyway, that's a very beautiful pastime, a very emotional episode of Ramachandra meeting his own children in Leela. So Lord Ram heard the Ramayana from his own children. And his own children at that point did not know that he is their father. He is only Ramchandra and they are his children. So very, very, very sweet, transcendentally sweet, bittersweet. It's all sweet nonetheless. Last time. So many reasons the Lord must have had. The Lord doesn't just serve one purpose when he performs pastimes. He achieves hundreds of reasons. Some we may know, some we may not know. Some we may infer from the way certain Leelas manifested. So Lord Ramchandra also disappeared into the Sharayu river. So we will continue this discussion on Ramchandra's disappearance, Sitadevi's disappearance and some subsequent pastimes in the next class. Okay, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman.
Okay.
Anything else? If not, we will conclude and we will discuss Chaitanya Charitamrita on Tuesday, 9 p.m. Malaysia time. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna. Siniji.
Krishna
Hare Krishna,
Prabhu.
Hare
Prabhuji.
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji. Dandavat
Saralakshmi
Pranam,
Mataji,
Prabhuji.
Arun, Pooja, Amit Priya, Dipali, Hare Krishna, Anand Sundari Mataji, Archana ji, Sneha ji, Hari Hari. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Dipali, Hare Krishna.